Hey y'all, welcome back to Mountain Murders Midweek.
Sometime this week, end of the week, or beginning of the new week.
Yeah, you just take your pick.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm great. By the way, I'm Heather.
And I'm Dylan.
Yeah. And this is Mountain Murders.
Wow, one of our smoothest intros ever.
Well, you know, we're out of practice a little bit. It's been a week.
So, I heard a little bird told me that you have some very interesting true crime news of one of the biggest cases ever.
I do. I thought we could open up with a little bit of true crime news, and then we're going to get to a few listener stories. It's just a kind of a potluck episode.
Oh, bring your own dish.
Everybody brings a dish. Exactly. What dish are you bringing?
I'm going to bring a casserole.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring deviled eggs because everyone loves deviled eggs.
Cheesy casserole.
Of course, with these prices, I'm going to bring them just to show off.
You know, like an 18-pack of eggs is a new flex.
Like, hey, y'all, I can afford to buy, 4 dozen eggs. Look at me. Brush my shoulders off.
Yeah.
Pop the collar. Feeling ecstatic today. One of the biggest serial killer mysteries of all time has finally been solved, according to a British researcher who is now seeking legal confirmation on behalf of a victim's family. Now, I've heard of this guy before. His name is Russell Edwards. He is a historian, and he claims that Aaron Kosminski, a Polish barber who was 23 at the time of the Whitechapel murders, is Jack the Ripper, based on what he said is a 100% match with DNA found on a piece of attire.
Damn. So he's leaving no room for doubt.
A shawl that ultimately incriminated Kosminski, per the researcher, was taken from the scene of Catherine Eddowes' 1888 murder in London, which later came into Edwards' possession in 2007. Catherine Eddowes was the fourth victim linked to Jack the Ripper. They believe the single killer, Jack the Ripper. From this shawl, he has extracted DNA and claims with 100% confirmation Kosminski was Jack the Ripper.
What do you think about this?
I don't know.
Yeah, and it kind of makes sense because, they always thought he was possibly a doctor or something because of the seeming knowledge of anatomy and the precision. But, barbers back then did a lot more than barbering.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because speaking about the alleged killer, Edwards said Kosminski had schizophrenia and was admitted to an asylum. In the 19th century, especially in London, his occupation as a barber would have also been like a barber surgeon at the time, which further points to him fitting the Jack the Ripper, mold or bill, whatever you would like to say about him. Because in those days, you had to have anatomical knowledge as a barber, just in case you had to perform some kind of surgery, dentistry.
Yeah.
I mean, barbers did a lot back then.
They did do a lot.
Yeah, so he would have that anatomical knowledge to commit the crimes. Citing an alleged 1891 document that named Kosminski a strong suspect, the researcher also said that the barber had strong homicidal tendencies and was prone to solitary vices and auditory hallucinations.
Damn.
Edwards is the author of a book called Naming Jack the Ripper, and he has long believed this barber to be the infamous London serial killer. He first made this claim over a decade ago. Like I said, I've heard this theory before, but now he's saying that he has this DNA evidence with Eddowes Shaw that helped point to Kosminski as the actual killer.
Now, you could argue that where's this Shaw been? Who's handled it? How evidence integrity, chain of custody, if you will. So that could throw a little bit of doubt into it, I think, right?
The historian did team up with a senior lecturer at Liverpool John Moores University, Dr. Jari Luhelainen.
Yeah,
Luhalainen,
that's how you say that.
probably, who isolated small segments of DNA from bloodstains on the garment. The segments were then matched with a direct descendant of Edo's, while DNA from semen stains on the shawl was matched with a descendant of Kosminski.
Okay.
However, Dylan, I would like to point out, let's just say, because there's been a lot of speculation or propaganda, more like it, over the years, naming these victims as they were all sex workers. And there was an author, I think her name is Hallie Rubenstein, and she has done a lot of research into these victims, and that's not necessarily true. There might have been like one of the victims who was a sex worker. They were mostly just poor women down on their luck kind of thing.
Right. And it would, it wouldn't matter if they were sex workers, right? I mean, that doesn't obviously mean they should have been murdered and sliced up like that. But
Well, no, but I was going somewhere with that.
no, and I understand what you're saying because it does matter.
Okay, well, so back to what I was going to say before you interrupted me. No, it doesn't matter they're sex workers, but in this case it does, because if Catherine Eddowes was a sex worker and she was seeing multiple clients, then this fella's DNA could have been on her personal item because he was a John and not necessarily because he murdered her.
Oh, okay.
Is where I was going with that.
No, I see what you mean.
Well, some people doubt Edwards' findings because the DNA has not been published in a peer-reviewed scientific journal. Yet he, along with 10 descendants of Catherine Eddowes, all want closure and are seeking legal acknowledgement that Kosminski is the man responsible for her and the other victims' murders. It's a pretty lengthy process, but they've already started it.
Wow. This has been a story that people have discussed and considered for so many years. And and if we finally get a definitive answer, that would be pretty amazing.
Well, I mean, this evidence is not conclusive. It doesn't tie to any of the other victims, and it really only proves that this barber was with her maybe within 24 hours before her death, which again, if she was in fact a sex worker, would make sense. So I don't know. I mean, I know hygiene back then wasn't exactly the best, and people weren't doing their laundry every day, and especially the poor people in 19th century London didn't exactly have access to, fresh laundry every day. But I think it's pretty interesting that they've been able to extract that DNA all these years later.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I mean, that's the most amazing part of the story, honestly.
And as much as I know people would love to see this case solved because it is one of those like enduring mysteries, and for a lot of folks, maybe their first introduction to true crime or to serial killer Jack the Ripper. So of course people would love to see this solved, but I don't know if we'll ever really know the truth.
Well, no,
if we'll ever know his true identity because it's been so long.
Yeah, it's been so long. I mean, we're really just speculating on all this evidence and, what could have happened and all that. But, I mean, Jack the Ripper's basically crossed over into like the pop culture, right? There's been so many copies and things based on that. And, so it's almost a unique case in of itself, right?
No, it absolutely is. And like you said, yeah, there have been so many stories or reiterations of the killer or fictional accounts kind of based loosely on Jack the Ripper.
Right.
I think of that terrible movie with Johnny Depp and Heather Graham, the poor unfortunates.
Oh, what was that called?
Was it To Hell or something hell? I don't know.
Drag Me to Hell? No, it wasn't Drag Me to Hell. Anyway.
In Hell, or I don't know. It was just a really bad movie.
It was a terrible movie.
The fact they kept throwing around the word, the poor unfortunates. I myself am a poor unfortunate.
Yes. Unfortunately, I'm a poor unfortunate. Right.
Yes.
Terrible movie.
Anyway, like I said, I don't know if we'll ever truly have answers, but I do think it's one of those cases that people would just like love to know what happened.
Right.
Just like the Black Dahlia or John Bonet. It's one of those cases that kind of lives in our psyche somewhere,
Yeah, agreed.
Now, Dylan, we have a couple of listener stories to get through. These are, of course, great stories. We love our listeners. We love it when folks send us these great stories. And you know what? If you're thinking about sending a listener story, I would like to remind you that it doesn't necessarily have to be something like weird or spooky or scary.
No, it can be funny.
It can be anything that you know would tickle Mountain Murder's funny bone or that would capture our interest.
Yeah, a lived experience you've had.
We love bad dates.
Bad dates are great, and goofy stories.
Just weird shit that's happened to you.
Maybe rage quitting a job.
Maybe stuff that's nonsensical. Because we're silly gooses.
Maybe
silly geese.
A series of unfortunate events.
If you're a poor unfortunate.
Yeah.
You personally have been victimized in a previous life by Jack the Ripper, let us know, right?
Please let us know.
Are you ready, Dylan?
You can hit us up at mountainmurderspodcast@gmail.com.
Exactly. Thank you for that plug. Are you ready, Dylan?
I am ready, and I cannot wait.
Okay, let's start with our first story here. Let me get my serious voice. Hey, y'all. You're my favorite podcast on Spotify, and for the past 4 years, my number one.
Damn.
Oh, how cool.
Thank you.
I've been listening to you since I got into podcasts. Don't ever change. The show is funny. I tell everybody to check out Mountain Murders. Like I said, I've been listening for a while, thought I'd send in a story. I grew up in Tennessee, but a lot of my family is in Kentucky. Summers, I'd visit my family for a month, staying between my grandma's house and with cousins who were close to my age. I was about 11 years old because it was the summer before I started middle school. I remember it vividly because I got my first period that summer. TMI, probably, maybe. It's Mountain Murders, right? We love TMI.
Well, I think it's a great. I think it's fine for you to share that with us.
Well, it happened while playing. I was mortified when I had blood all over my shorts, and to make matters worse, my younger boy cousin, who was only 9 years old, told everybody at a cookout later that day, quote, "Ashley was bleeding out of her butt. We didn't take her to the hospital, but y'all should pray for her."
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
I bet she was mortified.
Is that the story? Because that's pretty terrifying.
Damn.
No, it's not. You might have guessed that side of the family is pretty religious. My aunt and uncle went to this country church that had no indoor plumbing. There were bathrooms, but you had to go out the front doors, walk around the side of the building, through the parking lot, to the back where there was a bathroom building. There were bathrooms on each side of the small building. It did have running water, like sinks and stuff. I don't know why, but it reminded me of a bathroom at a campground. I'm kind of picturing this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Detached bathroom.
Yes, that's a good way to describe it, Dylan. Anyway, I thought it was unusual, but at the time, I rarely went to church, so I guess I assumed maybe this was normal. Did all churches have outdoor bathrooms? My aunt, uncle, and cousins went to church a few times a week, and I'll be honest, I didn't like to go and was bored out of my mind. It wasn't like there was a children's church or youth group. Everyone sat inside this small one room listening to a fire and brimstone preacher yell at us for several hours. That reminds me a lot of my childhood church experience.
But there's no pooping in the Lord's house.
I mean,
you need to step outside with that.
To escape my boredom, I excused myself to the bathroom. Not gonna lie, I took my time walking around the building, around the parking lot, and to the bathroom, stopping for a little bit to throw some rocks in a branch that ran by the back of the church. I figured I was killing time. If anyone asked what took so long, I would say I had a stomach ache. When I finally went around the side to the women's bathroom, I opened the door, and I swear I saw a little red devil creature in the corner of the bathroom. I screamed and took off running. I ran back to the church. I was upset and wanted to tell someone what I'd seen, but the preacher just kept going. Didn't really have an opportunity to tell anyone in that moment. And afterwards, I felt the moment had passed to tell anyone what I'd seen. For months after, I thought maybe the devil did know I was hiding in the bathroom and that he was coming to get me. Ashley.
Oh my gosh. So she saw an unidentified cryptid. A crypto. It was a meme coin.
Little old devil.
No, she saw a cryptid, and we don't know what it was, and it possibly could have been the devil. So, I mean, this is pretty serious business.
Are we sure she didn't just see a vacuum in the corner?
A red devil vacuum?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, no, and then could you imagine? So in the heat of the moment, you're like, "Oh my God," you're scared. You want to reach out for help, but everybody you can't because you can't just burst into church screaming about this thing.
I seen the devil in the toilet.
Yeah, and then the moment's passed, and you kind of feel like start questioning yourself. Did I really see that?
Well, and in your kid brain, convincing yourself that the devil knew you were hiding and was waiting for you,
Yeah.
and that you were going to go to hell.
No, I like how expertly she was burning some time. She had everything planned out. She had her lies had layers.
It sounded like maybe she had done this before.
She was going to sell it.
Yeah.
Come on, where you been at, girl?
Thanks for your story, Ashley.
Thank you. And I'm sorry that you couldn't tell anybody about the poop devil.
And I'm sorry that your cousin told everybody to pray for you. We didn't take her to the hospital.
Damn, he put all the information in one sentence.
Kids.
Yeah.
There's always the one kid, too,
You got to love them.
who will divulge the most shameful information to a group of people or to strangers.
Yeah.
You know, there's always the one kid in the family.
My mama ain't got no leg. She takes it off when she goes to bed at night.
My mama's got 14 different boyfriends, and they spend the night. One of them spends a night every night of the week for 2 weeks. She's got a different boyfriend at the house.
She's a Fortnite lover.
Yes. All right, moving along. Hello, friends. I can't remember the exact episode, but Heather was talking about a pervert at a park when she was a kid. Yes, I believe I have talked about the pervert at the park. There's a situation that lives rent-free in my head. Here goes. As a high school student, I worked at a grocery store. There was an older man. He was probably around 50, but at 16, 50 seemed old to me, named Bill, who frequently shopped the store. Most of us got the impression he wasn't firing on all cylinders. He would make inappropriate comments or tell dirty jokes to the employees. Most of us were teenagers up at the registers, with the exception of just a few adult employees, maybe who run the deli, bakery, meat counter, etc. No one wanted to check him out or help carry out his groceries, even the boys, because he was such a peculiar man. He had this shrill, piercing laugh that would instantly annoy me. After telling one of his stupid jokes, he'd laugh for several minutes, grabbing his sides like it was the funniest thing he'd ever heard. This one evening, I'm at my register. It's a quiet weeknight, and I think we're closing soon. A woman came rushing up to the counter where I was working and standing with a bagger, and there was another checkout girl. She was frantic and had a hard time catching her breath. When she finally was able to tell us what she had seen, she said, quote, "There's a man in the produce area, and he's masturbating."
Oh my gosh.
We get the manager from the office. He tells me to call the police, which I do. He proceeds to go to the produce area with the bagger, which is like to the left of the registers. He comes back in a few seconds, puzzled, and says we don't see him. Then suddenly we hear another shouting or shrieking. A female employee runs down an aisle toward us and is like, "Oh my God, oh my God."
There's a man in the dairy section. He's masturbating. He's down there by the sour cream.
Ew.
What?
The man was Bill, no surprise, and he was now running around the store. It turns out he wasn't masturbating with his penis out, but had decided to stick a carrot through his pants zipper.
Okay.
He was stroking it, you get the idea, and running down the aisles waving his carrot dick at shoppers and employees.
It's carrot dick.
My manager and a few employees were now chasing him around the store trying to catch him. Police showed up. We had to explain what was happening. The officers had to run him down. He ended up being arrested. They charged him with being a public nuisance and trespassing. He was banned from the store. I don't know what happened to Bill. The carrot incident was hot gossip in our small town for a second.
Dude, I bet.
And this was signed Anne-Marie.
Damn, Anne-Marie. So I want to know, did he find, was it a baby carrot or was it a regular carrot? Did he find the biggest carrot he could
Was
find?
he building a snowman?
Yeah.
He was like, "Do you want to build a snowman?" And then he just shoved it in his zipper.
And there was
of his
nothing
pants.
magical about what Bill was doing.
Then he's running up and down the aisles with
Yeah.
his carrot in his pants. Like, what are you doing, Bill? He's having the time of his life.
You know, people that say inappropriate things and then they think it's so funny and like they'll carry on about it for 5 minutes. That's got to be one of the most annoying thing that there is.
It's pretty annoying. Have
Yeah.
you ever known a person like that?
Yeah. Some just crabby, weird old man. They'll say inappropriate stuff
Or
that
make some
makes
off-color joke that it makes
everybody.
everyone uncomfortable, that
Yes.
they're like just cackling, laughing like it's the funniest thing ever. And you're kind of like torn between, do I cuss this person out or do I just try to be like whatever, they're old and just be respectful of them?
Your dad's a little bit like that.
And my dad, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, he's not going to wave his carrot dick at people, but, I've seen him make everybody around him uncomfortable
While he laughs and laughs.
while he thinks it's the funniest thing in the world.
Yeah, I know.
Shout out to Heather's dad.
Oh, gosh. Seek help, sir. Are we ready for our next story?
Yes. Thank you for that, Anne Marie.
See, that's the kind of thing we need here at Mountain Murders. We need to hear about the carrot dick chasing this fiend around the grocery store
And the poop devil.
and the poop devil. I was sitting on my back deck with my wife last summer. Yeah, I bet you were.
I spent a lot of time on my wife's back deck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had grilled out, finished up dinner outside, relaxing to the sounds of crickets. We have a large backyard that backs up to a wooded area. There's a decent amount of outdoor lighting. My wife starts staring down the yard and she says, I swore I saw a dog. Not thinking much of it, I'm like, okay. We don't have neighbors around, but someone down the road might have a dog that got loose. Then my wife says, look, do you see it? I catch a peek of a dog that looks to be the size of a Great Dane. The coat was dark and shimmered against the light. When I saw it, I said, that's a big damn dog. We stood up, walked closer to the edge of the deck to get a look at this giant. I think that's an expensive dog that probably got lost or loose. The dog sees us. It starts walking toward us. My wife says, is that a dog? What kind of dog is that? As it got closer, it did not look like a dog. It was the size of a Great Dane with a dog's body, but the head was strange, pointy shaped, and looked fleshy, not like fur.
Ugh.
Get inside now, I tell her. The dog creature starts making this shrill sound like I'm gonna try to make this sound. They've spelled it out. It's ee-wah!
Oh.
Yeah.
Eeyah?
Ee-wah!
Oh, now look.
Slowly walking toward us.
Have you ever heard a dog make that noise? I haven't. So that would be very unsettling.
No.
With its human face or some shit?
A pointy shaped face?
Fleshy.
I don't like that word. Fleshy.
It's fleshy.
Ugh.
Yeah,
Okay.
Squeeze it.
Yeah, but that carrot was fleshy too.
Nah. I think the carrot was meaty.
So, okay, get inside now. He's telling his wife. Now, I grab my wife and pull her across the deck, and by now she's freaking out. What's wrong? What is that? I tell her, get in the house. We heard a man's voice, human sounding, say something like, come back. I pushed my wife through the door as fast as I could, and we pulled the sliding glass door closed. My heart was racing. My wife was scared and confused. The kicker is when I lock the door and look back outside, there's nothing out there. Under normal circumstances, I would have thought maybe it was a beer buzz, but my wife was with me. She witnessed the whole thing. We never saw it again. Don't know what it was. Scared the bejesus out of us. We live in Southeast Ohio, by the way. And this is signed Chris.
Damn, did Chris just see a hellhound or something?
With a pointy, I don't know. It almost, is it like an alien?
The black dog is a, cryptid kind of story, right?
It is?
Isn't it?
Maybe.
Yeah. I think so.
Is it one of those fleshy walkers?
Oh, God, it could have been a skinwalker, bro.
Is it what is it? A Wendigo?
That's one of them.
A Wendigo? I
it's
can
one
never,
of them-
I don't know why I can't pronounce that.
It's is it Wendigo or Wendigo?
I always want to call it a Wendigo, but I don't think that's right. It's a Wendigo.
Maybe a Wendigo ate your baby.
Because, yes, that's what always pops in my head is a Wendigo ate your baby. All right. I don't want to see a fleshy, pointy face, big Great Dane dog. By the way, a dog that size freaks me out.
Even a nice dog that size freaks me out.
Like anytime I've seen a dog that's huge, like a Mastiff or a Great Dane, they just weird me out. They're so big.
Yeah, if they can stand on their hind legs and look me in the face, it's weird.
That's what she said.
Yeah. Man, you've been sitting on some great listener stories.
Why not? I kind of try to collect them until we have enough to lay down in the
Yeah.
bed with on an episode.
Yeah, let's cuddle with the listener
You
stories.
just want a little red devil in your toilet, you weirdo.
How you know I don't get a little red devil
Maybe
in
you
my
do.
toilet?
You spend a lot of time in there.
I'm
You spend a lot of time in the bathroom.
Maybe I don't spend that much time in the bathroom.
It's a lie. Earlier, you went to the bathroom, and I thought, I know I have a good 45 minutes. So I made eggs, started breakfast. I knew I could have breakfast and everything before you were even ready to not be in the bathroom.
Oh, wow. Just flexing with the eggs, aren't you?
Yeah.
You had like 2 or 3 eggs.
I had 3 eggs.
Damn.
That's right.
That's like freaking $2 worth of eggs.
I'm rich. I'm rich bitch. Well, I'm trying to do protein, bud.
You did good.
Ready for next story?
Damn. Thanks, Chris.
Mountain Murders. Absolutely adore the podcast. Many, many moons ago, when I was a young girl, my mamaw, my father's mother, broke a hip. Since she was unable to be alone and needed help, mamaw moved in with us. I wasn't very close to my mamaw. My father was the youngest of 8 kids, and when he was born, she was in her late 30s. I believe she was in her early 80s when she came to stay with us. My parents made a room for her downstairs. She only lived with us for a month or 2 before passing away. Mama died in a hospital of pneumonia, which I think that's pretty common with older people when they break their hip.
Yeah, it is. Seems to be.
Yeah. Sad.
Or they'll have that injury and then something else is what
Well,
gets
sad
them.
to hear that.
It is.
Our bedrooms were on the 2nd floor of the house. About 6 months after Mama died, I was going through a rebellious teenage phase, listening to a lot of punk rock music like Avril Lavigne.
Yeah.
Ha ha ha. Dyeing my hair the cheapest $2 Clairol black. I decided I needed space from my family and told my parents I was moving downstairs to the other bedroom, formerly Mama's bedroom. At 13, how much space can you get when you live with your parents? Good question. Little things started happening. At first, I didn't know what to think. When the lights went off, I felt my hair being pulled. One night, I felt something pinch my leg really hard. But then, there were a few nights I woke up to the bed shaking.
Look, every one of these things is utterly terrifying. Feeling something pulling at your hair?
It scared me awake until my mom or dad would come down and check on me because I'm crying, freaking out. My mom thought I was having nightmares because I had recently gotten into horror movies and I had watched The Ring about 20 times. This is the most early 2000s story I've ever heard.
Hey, the first Ring, which was famously or based on a really famous Japanese
Ringu?
was pretty fucking creepy.
No, it was totally creepy.
I mean, it was, and it literally, I think, kind of opened up a whole genre, especially to the American audience.
Japanese horror is pretty terrifying.
It's very scary and creepy.
Well, it's like those little girls and they have the black hair and they're like doing weird crab walks.
Yeah.
With their head spinning.
Right.
And black hair everywhere. And it scared the shit out of me.
Now, the Japanese fascination with the supernatural and monsters, it's next level. I mean, it really is.
We've discussed this before.
Yeah, I mean, it's
the Godzilla movies and that kind of thing.
It's some really, I mean, it gets super fucking weird and very unsettling. I don't know. I mean, damn, I've seen anime that I had to turn off before.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Anime's like, they have like horror anime?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, a whole lot.
Why did I not know that?
I don't know. I'm
Maybe
trying to get you to watch it.
Well, maybe I would watch that. Well, I had a roommate that was in anime, but he always watched like this little silly, like.
Well, they're certainly different
really
with the
annoying.
over-exaggerated expressions,
Yeah.
and they make a lot of grunting and little noises.
Yeah.
And they do like the little lines around them being super excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I don't care for that kind of anime, which is a whole thing.
Yeah.
But I like
Well,
the
he
more.
like lived in Korea.
Yeah.
So he was like really into, I guess, Korean anime, and so I guess that was some of that.
Yeah, but there's genres that are very, very dark. Very dark.
want some horror anime in my life. That sounds awesome.
Okay. You could
Okay.
start out with Death Note.
Okay. Back to our story. So they told me if I was going to have nightmares, I couldn't watch any more scary movies. Then one night I woke up to the bed shaking again. I don't know why, but I said, Mama, stop it. And the bed quit shaking.
Damn.
It never did again. True story. And I still love horror movies.
Wow.
This is signed Morgan.
Mama was like, why are you down here in my room, Morgan?
Oh, we have another these creepy stories of ghosts in bed at night stories are kind of scary.
Thank you, Morgan, and thank you for being a teenage dirtbag.
Yes.
Right?
I bet Morgan was into the skater boy.
Yeah.
She was probably saying, see you later, boy.
Totally.
Okay. It's so funny when you go through those little phases. And then we'll get into our other story here. When you're like a young teenager or a teenager and you go through these little phases and you get this attitude with your parents and you just think like, I'm going to go downstairs and get away from you guys.
Yeah. And see, what you don't know is they're glad you went
They
downstairs.
probably are.
So you're out of the way.
I just remember thinking when I was annoyed or mad at my parents and just kind of had this, I don't know, nonchalant attitude.
No, it's the I'll show them attitude.
Well, it was just like, kind of thing.
Right.
Like you really think you're doing something and your parents don't even notice that there's like something wrong with you.
No.
Just carrying on.
They're just like, whatever.
Like chopping broccoli over, at the kitchen counter, just ignoring you.
Yeah.
You really think you're showing them something?
By being sullen or aloof.
We're so funny when we're young, aren't we? Dylan, okay. So, like I said, I had a couple of listener stories. There we go. Got through a few of those.
They were awesome. Thank you so much for submitting those.
Some interesting stuff.
Yeah, it was.
All right, Dylan, let's see here. We were going to talk a little bit about the Megan Boswell case, something that has haunted me for the last 5 years. And I think we mentioned this. I'm not sure if we talked about it last episode or mentioned it on Patreon. But Megan Boswell is going to spend her life in prison with the possibility of parole for the murder of her 15-month-old daughter. She is accused of murdering, well, now she's convicted of murdering her 15-month-old daughter and stashing the child's body in a playhouse on her family's property.
And I think that's a just sentence, personally.
23-year-old Megan was found guilty on 3 first-degree murder charges in the death of her daughter Evelyn, who disappeared in 2019. She was also found guilty of aggravated child abuse and aggravated child neglect. Now, she pled not guilty and did not testify in this case. Closing arguments in Boswell's trial ended on Wednesday, and the jury spent a little over 4 hours deliberating. That's never a good sign.
Nah, a quick deliberation like that usually comes back, in my experience, it almost always comes back in a guilty verdict. They'd already kind of made their mind up. They're just going to go over things, make sure. Yeah.
Well, the jury handed down a life sentence with the possibility of parole rather than impose a sentence of life without parole. Evelyn was last seen in December of 2019, and her remains were found in a playhouse on the family's property the following March. Megan was indicted on murder charges in August of 2020. During the search for Evelyn, Megan gave contradictory statements during interviews with local news, law enforcement. She told a variety of stories. The stories sort of kept changing or evolving.
Yeah.
None of them really made sense at the time.
No, they were ridiculous. I mean, honestly, anytime you go that long and you don't see a child and people are asking questions and you're telling everybody a different story. I mean, have you ever seen a situation where that turned out to be innocent or not them lying?
This case is very reminiscent of the Casey Anthony,
Yeah, I agree.
Haley Anthony murder.
How in the hell, no matter what happened, if it was accident, neglect, or, intentional, how in the world do you stuff your child's remains basically like trash and know it's there, decomposing, with all their little stuff stuffed together in this little building, and you just know it's there?
Well, and on top of it,
How can you live with yourself?
living your life like nothing happened.
Yeah, living your best life.
Because she was taking trips. There were photos shown in court of her with her boyfriend at the time. in Gatlinburg at the Great Smoky Aquarium or whatever the aquarium is there, hanging out, playing board games, just chilling.
What a piece of shit.
Telling people like the child's father had taken her and they were in a custody battle. It turns out that the fella that was supposedly this child's dad is actually not her father at all. Like once they did DNA evidence.
Of course not.
She's a very messed up young woman.
It's very messed up, and I just don't know what gets you to that point. And she should be feel lucky to get the possibility of parole, honestly, because I think that the jury showed her a bit of mercy.
That she definitely did not show this child.
And I don't think she deserved a chance at parole, but, you know.
I believe she has to serve 50 years.
Oh, well.
I mean, from what I was reading, I believe she'll be like in her 60s when she's eligible.
Damn. All right. Well, give her something
We'll
to think
see.
about.
Very messed up story.
Well, that case has been a long time coming. And now finally, maybe that poor family, the people who did miss the little girl and wondered where she was and all that, maybe they can finally try to put the pieces back together.
You know, she blamed, she like tried to blame her mother.
Yes.
That her mother had the child, had hinted that her father, where the property was, where the child was found was on her father's property, that maybe he had something to do with it. I mean, she's just like throwing everybody under the bus.
That's how people like this are. They won't take any accountability or, any responsibility for what they've done.
It's really sad.
Oh, my God.
Well, Dylan, thank you for sitting down with me today to go over a little bit of crime news and enjoy some fantastic listener stories.
Oh, they were
always.
wonderful as usual, and thanks for having me, Heather.
And I do have another one. I'm going to save it for our next episode, though.
Okay, and maybe we'll get some more.
We're gonna save it. We're gonna start building up our next listener story episode. If you have a listener story, don't forget us, mountainmurderspodcast@gmail.com. We love to hear from you guys.
Yeah, and if you just want to say hi.
Say hi. We love that too.
That's right.
Bye, Dylan.
Bye.